Hola, hola, muy buenas tardes para los que todavía están en tardes y muy buenas noches para quienes están en noches. Em, Quiero darles la bienvenida, como siempre, a este espacio de los miércoles de liderazgo que se ha convertido para mí en un placer recibirlos en la casa del instituto todos los miércoles hasta ahora. Como siempre les cuento, como estamos aquí en un espacio de conversación y como estamos en un espacio que camina o que busca difundir esto del liderazgo generativo, que para nosotros es una práctica cotidiana. A quienes ya están prendiendo sus camaritas, les agradezco porque es lo que nos permite saber que están aquí presentes y que están participando. A quienes no, los invito y las invito a que, sin importar que estén en la casa, que hayan niños, gatos, perros, esposos, esposas, si están cocinando en el back, no pasa nada. Lo importante para nosotros es saber que ustedes están aquí con nosotros. Entonces, salvo que estén manejando, mientras estén presentables, de aquí para arriba, como les digo, este espacio permite la cámara abierta. Entonces, hoy tengo el placer de introducir a nuestro queridísimo Bob Dunham, que es el maestro y el creador del liderazgo generativo, quien está hoy para contarnos algo maravilloso, como ustedes vieron en las invitaciones. Em, Queremos empezar a ver cómo nos preparamos para el 2024. Parte de lo que nosotros hacemos en el liderazgo generativo es diseñar el futuro, no dejar que nos llegue de a pedacitos ni que nos sorprenda, sino hacernos cargo de crearlo como nosotros no lo imaginamos y no lo soñamos. Entonces la invitación de hoy es a eso, a que conversemos con Bob, ya que Bob nos cuente, pues desde su maravillosa mirada que nos tiene a todos aquí reunidos, eh, de qué se trata esto de diseñar el futuro. Entonces, Bob, como siempre, muchísimas gracias y son todos y todas tuyas.
Fantastic. Hello, everybody give me a high 10 so that we are present. I'm glad to see we have some people. We also have some ghosts who are attending, people without cameras. So I hope they will turn their cameras on so we can actually have a conversation. And we are coming to the end of a year. And in every culture, in every tradition, there is wisdom around the rhythms of life. And in our work with generative leadership, we've discovered something that seems to be ignored by many, which is leaders are people and who they're leading are people. It's not a technical system problem to be figured out with technical answers. And so these rhythms are the rhythms not only of seasons, of life, but of leadership. So I'm going to take you on a journey in this conversation today, and I'm going to invite you to explore some questions. And if we do well in this conversation, I am sure you can begin to see the power of creating the future in new ways. And this is a fundamental responsibility of a leader. Many people have many interpretations about what a leader is. It's the person in charge, or it's the expert giving orders, or it's a person with a title. And that doesn't make you a leader. A leader has followers, but why do leaders go together with others? Is to create the future. So as we're facing this transition from 2023 to 2024, it raises the question in our traditions of what future are you walking into? And what future are you going to create? And when you create the future, it is the overlap of leadership practice with living practice, with being in your life, creating what is coming. So everybody take a deep breath. literally take a deep breath. This is actually one of the most important leadership practices of all. It's a pretty important life practice. Try holding your breath. You'll see how important it is. And in leadership, the key to be able to move into the future, particularly the future with its unknowns, with its risks, with its challenges and its changes, requires us to be fully present. And a body that is tense is not fully present, it's contracted. And so let's take a deep breath again, but this time actually relax on the exhale, get out of your head, and come present to this moment. This is a fundamental leadership skill, a fundamental life skill. Are you here? Is everybody still breathing? Hello? Okay. So my questions, I'm going to begin with questions for you. What is your relationship with the future? And that's linked to the question, what is your relationship with possibility? Because when we look at our leadership journey, our life journey, and in our programs in IGL of being a coach or a consultant, we accompany people into their journey into the future. And the reason they are looking for company is they want to clarify the future, and usually they want to change it. And yet, if you take a moment and zoom out and look at your journey, your life journey up to now, every human being is in a journey from here to there. Every organization, every team, every person is here to there. And so one of the common practices when we're in our life and leadership journey is to think of the future and therefore to create the future as a repetition of the past. So I'm going to ask you to take a moment here and think about your future. Think about your future a year from now. Is it going to be different than now? Or is it going to be basically the same? And this is a common habit that we need to face in our life journey, and leaders need to face in the tendencies of organizations to drift in the same patterns of the past. So if you grant yourself or were given power to make a significant difference in your journey from here to there, what would it look like? What would your life look like, your team look like, your organization look like if you were able to do something extraordinary in the next year? And if you haven't built the muscle of engaging with these future conversations, it can be a perplexing question. Most people in the work we do when we go into organizations, where they want help is with their problems, with their pain, with their difficulties. And those are all given to you from the past. And the only future they can see is now without the pain. But I'm going to invite you to an exercise today to develop your future creating muscle. If we go out, not just 1 year, but 3 years, what's your future going to look like in 3 years? When's the last time you thought about that? I'll go out 5 years. What is your future going to look like in 5 years? You see, the role of leaders is different than the role of what we may call managers. The primary role of the manager is to get things done. They organize teams, they organize processes, they move the action forward, and they get things done. But the leadership role is not simply about getting things done. It's about deciding, what is it that's going to get done? What is the future we're going to go to? And so if my questions leave you a bit perplexed, this is the introduction to the leadership perspective, to the leadership questions. And yet, as I said, so many leaders that we work with in organizations aren't looking out very far because they have a lot of problems to solve today, a lot of breakdowns today. And that's fine. We'll leave room for handling the breakdowns as well. And so I'm going to invite you in a leadership and life strategic exercise here. We want to look at you in this moment, creating the future. I'm going to ask you to pay attention to your role as a leader. What future are you creating? How far out do you think? We have some practitioners, some students that we work with in management and leadership, and we start working with what is the future you're creating, and we begin to have a conversation about that. And sometimes where they begin is they can only see for 3 months. Because the future is simply a repetition of the past. So I'm going to ask you to do an exercise here of thinking 10 years out. And let's keep it focused. Let's keep it focused on you. You as a professional, you as a human being. What could you create in 10 years? The reason that I'm selecting 10 years is it's less likely to be trapped by last year. And so let's take a moment here, and I'm going to challenge you to open up and be bold. I'm going to invite you to say, in 10 years, I'm going to make my dreams come true. But not the dreams of what you want, but the dreams of who you become. Who can you be in your life? Who can you be in your leadership? Who can you be in the world in 10 years? What is the path that would take us from here to there? We've talked about the leadership journey. We've talked about the life journey. But they also require a learning journey. What could you learn in 10 years? Patricia, you have a question.
Perdón, era que estaba buscando la traducción. Disculpen.
So it's so good to meet you. Lucky me that I had this accident with you. Thank you.
Gracias.
Thank you. So the first thing I'm going to invite you to notice with my question of 10 years is, what is your mind doing with this? What assessments are you having? I'm going to ask you to have you let go of all of that and actually take this as an opportunity for generating something. Not just solving something, not just understanding something, but actually opening up some space of possibilities. If you want to be really bold, imagine who you're going to be in your career and in your life that fulfills your highest standards of what a good life would be for you. And we're going to discover later in this conversation what a good life is for you. Has everybody got an idea? Okay, fantastic. Now, why are we taking time to look at the future all the way out there? Because the future is a story. The future is a story you live in now. If I ask you to take me to the future, there's no place to go. The only thing you can give me is your story. And so what we're doing in this conversation by saying, here's who I want to be in 10 years. Here's what offer I want to be able to make in the world. This is the impact I want to have. This is the meaning and satisfaction I want to create for me and others. When you let yourself have that possibility, that vision, it's living now. The future is calling you to invent the path from here to there. And yet, when we do this exercise the first time, many people find they're a bit contracted. We haven't done this before. It's too bold. And there's a voice in my head that says, this isn't practical, or this isn't feasible, or this is crazy, or whatever that is. And so let's leave the future for the moment, and let's turn to the past. What is your relationship with the past? For most people, the past is full of lessons, experiences, but they also give us fears and opinions and habits. And that's so natural that sometimes we don't look at them. But if you look at the stories that limit you, they come from the past. So I'm going to ask you in this moment to think about, as you're looking at going into the future, what is the voice of doubt or limitation that shows up for you? That is an echo of your past. And we're going to do two things in this journey. I'm going to invite you to say, which are the old stories, the old opinions, the old habits that I need to let go of? When we're in the rhythm of life, we take things in, but we also let them out. When we breathe in, but we also breathe out. This is normal. This is healthy. And so my question for you is, can you breathe in possibility and let go and breathe out the doubts and fears? It's okay to have assessments of what's reasonable, feasible, but we don't want to let the old habits restrict us. How are we doing? Are you playing? So 2 questions. What do you have to let go of? And then face the future again. And one more time, say, I'm going to be bold. I'm going to declare as an experiment, as an objective, what is key for me of who I want to become and what do I want to be in the world in 10 years. And in doing this, I want you to notice that you had certain reactions. You had some body reactions. You had some opinions show up. Maybe you had some emotions show up. Welcome to the world of leadership. In order to be a leader creating the future, we have to be able to create the space for the future and not simply be in reaction to our old patterns of comfort or discomfort. So let's look at what is this here to there journey. I'm going to share some images with you to help with this. So if we're imagining, we're designing our future, as we're doing today, how do we learn to fly? If you imagine yourself today, even though maybe you've had many flights already, when we go from one level to the next, we go from a caterpillar to the butterfly, and then we become a caterpillar at a new level. And so as we do that, what happens? What shows up for you as an edge? As the place that stops you, as the place we go from where I know to where I don't know, from where I'm confident to where I'm uncertain, to where I'm open to fear. This is common. And to be an effective leader, we need to go and grow beyond that and help those we lead come to the edges of the unknown and learn how to go forward in an effective way. Because our possibilities are always over the edge. And so the leadership conversation we're talking about today is to be able to go from here to there, to take the step. So everybody take a moment, as I've been provoking you with these questions. What has been the biggest doubt or border that's shown up about your ability to create your future? Is it a feeling? Is it an emotion? Is it a story? Because the muscles we want to build is to be able to go to the edge of the unknown, not in the mood of fear or avoiding risk, but the mood of curiosity. Leaders become experts at going beyond the edges to the unknown with curiosity. And we don't need to be rash. We don't need to take risks that will be dangerous. And so if we don't know how to do that, when people move into new territory, we call that being blind. And the phrase for that is the bull in the china shop breaks china. Is there any place in your life or in your team's work or in your organization that there's broken china? And what could that be a symptom of? What can we use in our own life journey or in our leadership to say, what do we need to do at an edge? Because clearly the China would not be broken if we were more competent. And so this is the skill of coming out of blindness to know what there's something we don't know, but to be curious, to be able to get help. This is the fundamental power, value of the coaching and consulting profession, is that you can offer help to people where they are not sure, they're facing the unknown, and it's the role of the leader. In IGL, we're training coaches and consultants to be coaching and assisting leaders. And so one way that we find people in their learning journey is they decide they don't need help. They're going to do it their way. And that's usually, that's someone who knows there's a way to do it, and they decline it. And they're not willing to learn. And so when we begin to engage as a coach and consultant, we need to set up the relationship to become a learner, to actually be open to learn. And that requires some skills of how to design an offer, how to show its value, and how to go forward. And what does this have to do with your journey into 2024? I invite you to say, where am I going to learn in 1924? What do I need to begin learning to get to where I want to get to in my journey to my 10-year vision? And so this is the foundational leadership life skill, is to envision the future. And how do we do that? We do that in conversation with others. And then organize yourself in the actions that will make it happen. Let's unpack that a little bit. And give me a moment here. So let me begin here. So when we're talking about creating the future, I'm going to have us listen to the word leadership as a code word for creating the future. A code word for creating value. A code word for creating satisfaction and meaning. But we need to have an interpretation of how we do that. And so we're going to look at what happens when we observe leadership. Some of you may have heard this before, but I want to look at it from the point of view of how does this perspective enable us to begin designing our path to the future and how we're going to create it. And so when we see leadership, what we see is people interacting with people. And as a result of that, certain actions happen that produce results. We all see that. And what we want to look at is, what is the leadership part of this? Well, if you want different actions and different results, you have to have different interactions at the beginning. That is where leadership happens. And the questions we need to clarify in this new point of view is, what are those interactions? What is action itself, and what is a human being? And that's crucial if we're going to move from a vision of the future to creating actions that are going to make it happen. We need to know what the leadership interaction is. We need to know what action is and how human beings do it. And so the perspective that we're unpacking here today is, we are looking for interpretations that we can see, actions we can see, that we can do, that we can learn, and that produce the desired result. That is our criteria for a generative interpretation. That's what we're going to look at now. What is it you need to be able to see, do, learn to create your new future? Are you interested? Anybody? And so here,
Totalmente.
thank you. That's great. Here I'm going to show you the framework that will allow us to create this future outcome. Let's begin with action produces results. That's part of the common sense of our culture. And it's also part of the blindness of our culture, because people think they know what action is. And remember, we were looking at what the leadership interaction is. It's a question. And most people think action is the doing and movement that produces the result. But we saw that already. There was activity producing results. But when we look at what produces the action, the most generative interpretation we found that's powerful is to understand that all action by human beings is a manifestation of their commitment. Commitment is not just something that we do at particular moments. We don't just do it when we get married or sign a contract. Our commitment is shown in everything we do, the clothes we put on, what we eat, how we listen, how we talk to people. All of our actions come from commitment. Some of those commitments we're aware of and we choose, and many of them are not. When I asked you what you had to let go of from 2023 to make room in 2024, those were old commitments, old patterns. And since action comes from commitment, where does the commitment come from? It's generated in conversations. It's always generated in a conversation. Some of these conversations may have happened decades ago. Some of them may have happened when we were children. But what we do as habits, what actions we take, except when there is a physical problem with our bodies, come from a prior conversation. And this is the blind spot of our culture. This is the perspective that is going to open up your relationship with the future. So I want you to see here that when you say, I'm going to do something in 2024, and you commit to it, which means that you'll actually take actions on behalf of the commitment, otherwise there is no commitment, you will begin to generate a new future. And this has been the discovery of our generative leadership study for over 40 years. That all results of human beings, both individually and together, come from prior conversations. They come from conversations that we have and don't have. They come from conversations we do well and we do poorly. And this is the domain of your leadership. And it's the domain in which you create the future. The future is a conversation, but what is your commitment to the future? And we now have this fifth element of creating the future, of creating possibilities, that we call care. And I'm going to ask Olga here, if you can do the explanation of what is care and why it's so important in the leadership world.
Gracias, Bob. Buenas noches para todos. Bueno, en nuestro discurso generativo, el care es una palabra que en español la traducimos como lo que importa cuidar y es esencial para la experiencia humana porque para nosotros el care es la fuente del valor, de la satisfacción y del diseño. En últimas, el care nos permite ser la guía, la brújula en la vida, que nos permite tomar las decisiones, que nos permite estar conectados con lo que realmente tiene sentido y valor para nosotros. Y cuando nosotros estamos sintiendo el care, porque el care no es un proceso mental que hacemos, no vamos a nuestros cares desde un lugar explicativo, sino que para nosotros es nuestro cuerpo, que en nuestro discurso lo llamamos la somática, que es la conexión entre mente y cuerpo. El care habita dentro de nosotros. Metafóricamente podemos verlo como nuestro corazón. Es donde habita realmente la misma experiencia de estar conectados en la vida con lo que realmente es importante. Entonces, cuando hay esta conexión con el care y realmente vivimos en la vida, una vida que cuida lo que realmente es importante, a partir de las conversaciones, de las acciones y de los compromisos que genuinamente estamos ahí conectados, eso nos permite como resultados tener vidas valiosas y satisfactorias. Entonces, el care para nosotros es fuente y orientación de la vida y de la experiencia humana. Eso, Bob.
Beautiful. So let's come back. Given what Olga just introduced about care, the first thing I want to point out to us is that our culture doesn't ask us what we care about. The culture we live in today tends to tell us what to do, or surround us with stories of what you should be doing, or what's valuable, or what's hot, or we're just in an avalanche. And it's all external. Produce the results out there, buy the stuff out there. And I want you to see something very important here in your journey to the future and your journey into leadership and power is in this understanding that we have been working with for over 40 years and have never found a situation that this is not valid in. That commitment and care are internal states. What you do and the results you get are shaped by what's going on inside of you. And if you're a leader, the only way you're going to get the results you're looking for in action is people have to commit to them. They have to care about them. And we begin to see a whole different set of these conversations that we asked, what are the leadership interactions? What are the leadership conversations? How do we help clients when we're doing consulting or coaching to shift the actual results, not just feeding them information? And this is what we call the anatomy of action. It has a structure, and it's unavoidable. And it's a blind spot in our culture. So this is what we bring in our learning path to become aware of commitment and care and how they are shaping our future, along with our habits and our assessments. And so with these conversations, I'm going to ask you to just take a moment here. And when I asked you all these questions about what are you going to let go of and what future are you going to declare, what are the conversations that showed up for you? Were they open, exciting, full of possibility, or were they heavy and full of problems? And that's the way we begin to see we're living in these conversations. Becoming aware of them allows us to make choice of them. One of our principles we've learned over the years is awareness creates choice. If we're not aware of the conversations that we're living in, then we're not having the conversations. They're having us. And that's a first place of new awareness for leadership. And so Olga mentioned that care is not simply an internal personal experience. It is fundamental to our relationship with what is valuable. It is fundamental to what people value in the world, in the marketplace. You see, value is an assessment that this is valuable or it's not. And value is based on care. You see, if I care about something, I will value what helps me take care of it. And if something is not something I care about, I won't value it. So some people really value a motorcycle. That's what motivates, what promises they want to accept and what requests they want to make. But I don't want a motorcycle, so it has no value for me. So you see, the value is not in the motorcycle, it's in the human being. And so I need to clarify what I care about. And when we go into organizations, we clarify what the leader and the team care about to see what is valuable for them, what's possible for them. And it's a question they may not have asked. And the value is not simply the business metrics. It's also that people value a good place to work. They value being healthy. They value being respected. Satisfaction is an important part of what organizations are trying to produce for clients and for employees, for investors. But satisfaction is also an assessment based on care. If you don't care about something, then it can't satisfy you. And so we're beginning to see that value and satisfaction are the drivers of business, and yet they're rooted in the human being. They're rooted in the depths of the inner states of human beings. And so is meaning, because the leadership journey is a life journey for both the leader and those they lead. And so now we are putting the full human being back into the domain of action. It's not just getting things done. And since care is so important, it's not just personal, it shapes the energy, it shapes the focus, it shapes the ownership, it shapes the responsibility that people bring to their actions. And so what is cared about is what will drive the results and the evaluation of the results. And so with that, we begin to see, where do you want to be in 10 years? Where do you want your organization to be in 10 years? That takes us to the long view of leadership, not just the next year of leadership. And organizations that create deep, powerful, sustainable resilience are ones who have a longer horizon. So take a moment here and think about, in your going from 2023 to 2024, what is the vision of the future that is calling you? And what's the care that it represents for you? What is it that you care about? And it's not simply an internal emotional state. It is a recognition of how I will make choices. Some leaders, for example, care about expanding the business. Other leaders, not so much. They will produce different actions. And one of the first services we do in generative leadership consulting is we help people see what they care about in a bigger horizon than simply the avalanche of breakdowns they're living in, as they resolve those challenges, that they can begin to be on the path to creating the future. So, given that, we now have some questions. What's your here? What's your there? And why do you care? And then we have the powerful notion of rhythm. How are you going to travel? Let me ask you a simple question. How do you walk across the room? You put one foot in front of the other, right? That requires a rhythm. As you're walking across the room, you're breathing, right? That requires a rhythm. There are certain rhythms of life that that are necessary, that sometimes are so normal we don't notice them. You only get 24 hours a day, and we need to sleep, right? Some leaders try to deny that, but yeah, we need to sleep. Oh my God, we got another rhythm. And these rhythms have to be coordinated to be healthy. You can't just go for 48 or 72 hours without sleep and then say, okay, I'll sleep in extra. You have to find your rhythm. And what is the rhythm of a team? What is the rhythm of an organization? They have healthy rhythms they require also, just like the heart beating and the lungs breathing, and they are conversations. When we look at the research, the Gallup organization that's done something like 27 million surveys over the last 15 years, they found what they have measured to be employee engagement or disengagement. In the US, the latest surveys they did show 69% of employees are disengaged from their work. close to 20% of the employees are antagonistic to their employer. When you look at that, that is not an employee problem. That is a leadership problem. Look at all the potential, all the positive energy, all the commitment and care that is not being activated. And what are the breakdowns that cause this disengagement? Are missing conversations. And so one of our discoveries over the last decades is not only what are the important conversations for action and for value and for satisfaction, but also being able to go into situations and see the missing conversations. To even have the question, what is the missing conversation, empowers you. And that is how we become, just as physicians, when they see people having health problems, they say, what's missing? What needs to be provided for this person to become healthy? And a consultant needs to do the same thing for an organization, for a team, and a leader. And the reason that this is so needed is that this perspective that I'm sharing with you, this generative perspective that answers the question, how do people generate the future? How do they generate value? How do they generate satisfaction? And how is it that they don't? What are the rhythms or the lack of the rhythms that are producing that? And so generative consultants and coaches are trained to go in, see what the conversational space is that drives action, that drives results, and what's missing, and what can be improved. And that's what the consultants do. And then you see the results shift. The results are a side effect of the network of conversations that are created in the culture of a company by leaders. That's a pretty powerful perspective. And for coaches, it allows them to go from, many wonderful coaches are trained in deep personal coaching, one-on-one coaching, but this allows us to create a framework where coaches can see how to coach a team or an organization or the entire network that's going on. But with that perspective, I want to bring it back to you. We have 3 dimensions of these conversations and results and actions that we're always involved in as human beings. One dimension is results in the world. That's usually the conversations that companies and leaders are looking for help. We want to produce better results in the world. We want to expand, we want better quality, we want more customer satisfaction, whatever that is. And the perspective that ties us together, those results are coming from the patterns, the rhythms of coordination and miscoordination of the staff and the interactions with the clients. Is this making sense? Results in the world come from the interactions of people. We call that the we space. And what is leadership, coaching, and consulting all about? It's changing what's going on in the we space. But the only way you change what's going on in the collective space of teams and organizations is you have to change what's going on inside of individuals. They need to see with new eyes. They need to listen in new ways. They need to have new conversations. If they don't, they will produce a future that's probably a repetition of the past. And this is not simply a technical engagement. It's based on these fundamentals of being human, that we have a relationship with our future, that we have a relationship with our rhythms. And so my question for you is, as you're going to build your shift from 2023 to 2024, as you're going to look at creating your future, what is it you really care about most deeply? And the second question that links this up with our power is, are you taking care of that care? If you're not taking care of what you care about, what is the story that needs to change? We go back to the anatomy of action. What are the new conversations that are needed? What needs to be let go of and what needs to be embraced? And the way we do that is not some dramatic moment of jumping off of buildings. It's a cultivation. It's planting seeds that you want to cultivate and grow. What are the seeds that we need to plant and grow? New ways to observe, new ways to see the space of action and the organizational world. New actions, new skills, new habits that are based on going to the edge of the future, going beyond discomfort, beyond fear, into possibility. And so my question for you is, what are you going to cultivate? And the IGL programs that we do are exactly that. We've accompanied thousands of leaders, coaches, and now consultants for decades now. And we're learning all the time. We're getting better and better at it. So one more time for you, my question to you is, what do you want to create? Does it really connect to your deepest care? What are new conversations you may need to learn? Or sometimes we don't know what they are, we're just looking for them. What is it I need to learn to see that I'm blind to? What is it I need to learn to do that I'm currently not doing in conversations with myself and conversations with others? So, Olga, this would be a point where I normally do a breakout, but some people don't like breakouts. So I'm wondering if we could do groups of 3, Gloria? Would that be possible? We'll give you a choice. We're going to suggest that you join a breakout. I'm going to give you some questions so you can interact with colleagues here and saying, what questions is this provoking for you? What possibilities is it opening for you? And come back after a short chat and we'll take on your questions and observations. I've thrown a new worldview at you. I hope some of it has been clear. The big claim we're making is that your future is up to you. Your future is your conversations. What future are you declaring? What future are you going to create? And does this little roadmap that we've talked about make sense to you? So if you don't want to join the breakout, just stay with us here, and we're going to break out in groups of 3 for, we'll go for, let's see, let's keep it short, 6 minutes, have a quick chat, see what's cooking, and then we'll take your questions. have a blank sheet and create something incredible. You can become an artist and begin to paint and see what shows up. Claudia, you have a comment or question, please.
Yes, Bob, thank you very much. I just want to know more about care. You speak in a very special way about it. I want to know more about it. Could you explain?
Okay. Yeah.
Uh-huh.
That's a great question. I'll begin when everybody comes back, so that I think it's good to share that. And it's a great question. And in fact, the fact that you have that question shows that it's a blind spot in our culture. We have the word, but what are we talking about? It's not part of our everyday conversation. And yet we found and I'll go into it in depth. It is the depths of where our aliveness comes from, where value, satisfaction, and meaning come from. And it has to do with connecting with, not with your ideas, but with what you resonate with in life. That's what you care about. Some people care about this, some people care about that. But then when we have the question, what are you going to do with your life? Oh, we don't tend to have the habit to zoom out and think with a big question. We're just in today and tomorrow. But care is the GPS. It's your heart saying, this is what makes you alive. This is what your good life is. Go for it. But it's not desire, right? It's not just preference. It's what answers the question, what would make a good life for me? And how would my life be empty if I didn't have it? And many people speak about it as purpose. And for me, it was choosing what I wanted my work to be about. That's, I think, the big domain for most people. What do you care about? When you know what you care about, then you're well-oriented in your work. I know what's meaningful. I know what I want to contribute. And I'll I'm already doing all this. Are they coming back? And so the question, Claudia, is one that we find in our culture most people don't have a ready answer for, because it's not a question we've been taught to think about. And it's fundamental because it's part of action, as we showed. It's part of value, satisfaction. Isn't that what we want for our lives? Value, satisfaction, meaning, aliveness. If you don't know what your care is, it's remote. It's not really in your hands. Make sense?
I love that you mentioned that it's a GPS. So it means that we have to understand where we are and what we are doing in terms of what is important for our life. Yeah, it's something like this, but it's so difficult to understand in a really good way, which is the purpose, because it's not an easy question.
Yes.
It's not about it's not a general idea. It's something that is focusing why is the reason about life.
Yes.
Okay.
So Claudia asked a question. I want to answer her question first, and then we'll take comments and questions from that you all have from this journey we're on. She said, tell me more about care. Why is care so important? And care, in our decades of research, is the most fundamental layer of our humanity. What we care about is what we resonate with in life that's meaningful for us, that makes us alive. If you're doing a job and you don't care about your job, then it's kind of empty. You go through the motions, but you're not generating value, satisfaction, and meaning. And so when people are dissatisfied with their careers and they're not sure where they should go, if they just get another job, it will be the same empty experience. Because the value, satisfaction, and meaning does not come from the job. It comes from the care that you bring to it. And this is crucial for leaders to know their care and crucial for creating organizations for human beings, where we're allowed to discover our care not only individually, but together. Teams that don't care together about what they're doing and their clients and they're excellent, there's a certain lack of ownership. And so the reason that care exists, I'll give you my interpretation from our 40 years of working with this. The reason we have care is because we live in language. Human beings live in language. And because we live in language, we have a future. I never see my dog talking about next summer. They're only in the moment. But we live in language. We can talk about next summer. We can talk about what I'm going to study in college. We can talk about what we're going to do. And when we are in our relationship with the future, there are futures we want that says, that is valuable. That's satisfying. That means I want that. That's my energy's up. That makes me alive to have that future. And other futures that we say, I don't want that future. It doesn't connect with me. It's not for me. And so we all have this, and it's unique for every person. And it's that fundamental place in it. Some people would say it's connected to your, different traditions would say it comes from your heart. Or it's the energy of your soul. Other traditions would say it's your destiny. It's your life journey searching for who am I and how do I become who I am, rather than constantly fighting to be something else. And so the care is not an idea. It's a feeling. It's a full body emotional state. When you know something matters to you, you care. And when you know something doesn't matter for you, you know you don't care. And so when we leave out care in our understanding of action, we make people machines. Everything's transactional. And that's the problem with most organizations, not because of the organization, but because of our culture has left out these fundamentals of the human being. Don't you want to have a career you care about? Don't you want to produce results that matter to you? And from that point of view, we found that a good career is following your care. You might have very many different jobs, but you're following your care, producing meaning for yourself. And this is part of the leadership opportunity, to have the missing conversations, like I pointed out with Gallup, who's done all these studies of showing the reason people are disengaged, the reason people leave are missing conversations. That's a leadership problem. The role of leadership is to create the conversations that create the future, that create value, satisfaction, and meaning for the client, for the employees, for everybody in the network. And all of our emotions arise out of care. When you're sad, sadness is an emotion that is associated with loss. But if you didn't care about what was lost, you wouldn't be sad. Anger is an emotion that arises to defend something. But if you didn't care about that, you wouldn't be angry. So care is everywhere. And yet it's a blind spot in our culture. We don't talk about it. Our children aren't taught about what they care about is crucial and important. It's not the focus. And so This is our most generative interpretation we've found that answers the question, what makes us human? What is a human being? And from that, then we can reinterpret action, and we can begin to have some of these missing conversations that allow us to create a powerful path to the future, one with meaning, infuse our learning for our passion, and have the courage to go into organizational settings with a lot of pain and challenges and help people sort through the conversations they don't know how to have. How are we doing, Claudia?
Super, super. I have more questions.
Yes. Let me see if someone else has a question first, and then I'll come back. Does anyone else want to share a question or make a comment so far? Then, Claudia, you're on again. Let's do one more.
Thank you. How we can understand more about our personal care? Because it's not an easy question. It's not obvious. It's something else.
Yeah. Our experience, Claudia, is most people in our culture, because it's been a missing conversation, it's a little bit confusing at the beginning. They're not clear. Or they answer the question very shallowly. I care about my family. I care about being healthy. Yeah, those are things we love and things we need to be, but it doesn't answer the question, what produces meaning for you in your life journey? And so we find that this is a question that we need to be engaged with over time. And it's part of the CCG program. You begin with the care of clients and teams as well, but you begin with that journey. We find it takes 6 to 12 months for most people to navigate in this new conversation and begin to clarify and find that deeper care of meaning that organizes their life. Sometimes it takes longer because we are conditioned with old stories about what we should do. We've even lost our choice. If we don't know what we care about, how do we choose? Oh, we do what other people tell me to do, or the voice in my head tells me to do, or what my past tells me to do. And so finding our true power for leadership in life is going in and connecting what really matters to us, giving ourselves our own voice to be able to take this to the world. And everybody else is looking for it too. They just don't know it. And so it's a journey. But since it's the foundation of your aliveness, value, satisfaction, and meaning, it's a journey that we invite you to take, that's worth taking. Your life is a stake. This is about your life, not just about technique. So anyone else have a question? That was care. Anybody want to share, where did this put you in your conversation with your 2023 and 2024? What are you going to let go of, and what opened up for you, if anything, for where you're going? Nobody? Okay, then I think,
Hi, Bob.
oh, please.
Hi, Bob. I'm Gabby. Hi, how are you? I'm driving. That's why I have the camera off. Just safety.
Thank you.
I was thinking that opening this new year, I have to check several times, or I have to check the satisfaction condition of my promises.
Perfect.
Because as I am evolving, the persons in my life are evolving too.
Yes.
So
Beautiful.
maybe what works the year we are closing is not gonna work the next year for me, either
Absolutely.
for them.
Absolutely. People are always changing. if they're changing in a healthy way, they're growing.
Mhm. Mhm.
And if they're changing not in a healthy way, then they're
No.
in some
Mm.
kind of loop. And this
Mm.
is also part of the leadership game, to say, not to force ourselves to grow, but what do we want to grow to?
Mhm.
When we plant seeds with our care, what does a seed do? It awakens in the spring, it pushes through the soil,
Mm.
and it reaches for the light. And so part of this conversation is not just to go to your head and say, okay, how do I want to do better next year? It also includes to give yourself the gift of have some time where you're not even in your mind, you're just feeling your way into the year and seeing what's calling me. When the mind is shouting, you can't listen to the whispers of the heart. And so the transition into the new year is a time to give yourself that gift and see
Mm.
what, and you test it with the care test. You say, if I produce this, would I really care? Does this really enliven me? Or is just a little bit more? And it's a great set of questions. But I believe the same is at stake if we want to have our organizations connect to people's care in their work together so that we produce ownership and excitement about the work rather than, okay, here's what we're going to do. And it's a missing conversation. I hope that's resonating with everybody here. We can waken up this power. We can clarify it. And I mentioned to Claudia, Sierra, the other speaker, that the care is like a GPS in life. You're going from here to there. Where is your there? Well, where my there is taking care of what I care about.
Mm.
And that's where the value and satisfaction and meaning comes for us. And we also learn how to bring that to our clients in our consulting, because we're awakening the full human being in the world of action. How are we doing?
Thank you, Bob.
Super.
Thank you. Perfect. Anyone else comment or question? I think I'm going to ask Olga to wrap us up here, to say she's leading the team of the programs we're doing, and this is just one of the slices, one of the dimensions. Our programs go into the me space, the deep internal care and meaning of your own life, connecting it to building and leading teams, and taking that to scaling up in the world to produce a big impact. And if those are the kinds of things that on your life journey produce some aliveness in you, then you should be talking to us at IGL, because that's the journey that enlivens us, that we do with all of our clients. So Olga, why don't you do a summary of, what are the promises of the program for those who are interested?
Claro, Bob. Pues hilando con la conversación de hoy, que justamente tiene que ver con las posibilidades y con el diseño del futuro, esa es una de las promesas. Y es que un poco quiero profundizar ahí, Claudia, en lo que traías acerca del care. Y es que el care, como fuente y radar de la vida, lo primero que nos permite es vivir la vida que genuinamente queremos vivir, y no las que nos dijeron que necesitábamos vivir o para las que nos programaron para vivir. Y eso en todas las dimensiones de la vida. Entonces, practicar el liderazgo generativo parte por ese principio de que elegimos la vida que queremos en todos los dominios de acción para que sea valiosa para nosotros y para otros, en la construcción con los otros. Y nuestro viaje de aprendizaje tiene que ver con justamente eso, con poder sobre todo ser líderes. Y ser líderes implica poder tener un cuerpo y una somática, que es parte de nuestra práctica, que nos habilite para sostener la vida que queremos, para diseñarla, para construirla y para retarla y para desafiarla. Entonces, una de nuestras promesas de programa es que nos construimos en un observador y en un actor capaz de diseñar y crear la vida que queremos. Que eso nos va a permitir también crecer nuestra oferta, en lo que sea la oferta de valor que es para nosotros hacia el mundo, sea como coach, como consultor, como líder. Tenemos estructuras que nos permiten observar, distinguir e intervenir, no solamente en nuestra propia vida, sino en el acompañar a otros, a equipos y organizaciones para que lo puedan hacer. Entonces acompañamos a habilitar a otros para que puedan hacer lo mismo que nosotros practicamos, obviamente en su dimensión, en el me, en el we y en el work, que tiene que ver con el mundo. Y nuestra promesa tiene que ver con que podamos ser parte de un mundo en que todos podamos prosperar, que tengamos buenas vidas. De eso se trata el liderazgo generativo. Y nuestro camino es un camino de mucha expansión. No hay manera de no crecer en la vida, de no traer, yo lo digo, la abundancia en todos los sentidos de la vida. Porque cuando podemos conectar nosotros con los que y con lo que genuinamente vale la pena para lo que vinimos aquí, es imposible que no nos vaya bien a todos. Así que de esto se trata, lo aprendemos en comunidad, lo hacemos acompañado, es un viaje en el que venimos creando posibilidades también para nuestros clientes. Es un viaje que vale la pena vivir, porque todas las dimensiones de la vida, la vida se transforma. La familia, los hijos que criamos, las parejas que tenemos, las redes que tenemos, las alianzas que podemos generar. Así que muy invitados a ser parte de este discurso. Tenemos la fortuna de tener a Bob entre nosotros y, y bueno, somos una Maribel González que es la creadora de IGL Latam, aliada de Bob. Nos hacen una invitación a que podamos ser una América Latina de primer mundo. Y eso necesita que nos transformemos a nosotros mismos para poder también generar valor en América Latina para que seamos de primer mundo y no lo creamos. Entonces eso, nos convertimos en aliados de las organizaciones, de nuestros clientes y generadores de valor para el mundo y para nuestras propias vidas. Así que eso es lo que queríamos hoy compartir con ustedes. Estamos al borde de un nuevo año, así que las invitamos a que se puedan hacer estas preguntas, que exploren estas preguntas que Bob nos ha traído hoy, que son fuente y que son información. Y estas preguntas no vienen de tu cabeza, sino que vienen de tu corazón. Así que la invitación es a que te conectes contigo profundamente, a que te des el permiso de explorar, incluso a no saber y tener el lienzo en blanco, como nos decía Julio, que decía, no veo futuro. Está buenísimo, porque sobre eso lo puedes pintar. Así que vamos a estar de regreso en los miércoles de liderazgo, que es un espacio habitual que tenemos a las 5:30 hora Colombia, todos los miércoles. Y también vamos a tener un evento el 19 de enero, al que les va a llegar información para estar en una experiencia que nosotros llamamos el CCG por un día, que es una experiencia de cómo vivimos el proceso de aprendizaje nosotros dentro de nuestros programas. Así que muy invitados a que se sumen también al CCG por un día. Es un evento de 5 horas. Los vamos a estar contando y bienvenidos a esta comunidad, siempre. Un abrazo, feliz año para todos, unas felices fiestas, que disfruten, que compartan rico y que diseñen su futuro. Bob, como siempre, gracias por tu sabiduría, por traernos tu vida entera aquí al servicio del mundo, a todos los que se sumaron hoy, y hasta la próxima. Nos encantó tenerlos aquí hoy.
Chao, chao, buenas
Gracias.
noches.
Chao.
Chao, muchas gracias.
Chao.
Chao.